Hello, my name is Yvette Martin and I am open to feedback. Raquel and Alex are a very healthy and happy couple. When this quarantine began, they were excited. They knew they were going to be spending all of their time together. However, this is not the case for everyone and every relationship. Tia knew she was going to dread this quarantine. Her boyfriend Nate was already both physically and mentally abusive. She knew that their problems would only get worse as they were going to be spending so much time together, which would lead to more arguments. These arguments would then result in more abuse. This abuse is known as domestic violence. Domestic violence occurs all around the world. However, there's still help out there. According to Caroline Bettering Lopez on the Council on Foreign Relations, on May 13th, 2020, she states that there's new campaigns to help survivors gain resources like text message-based reportings, mobile hotlines, or even mobile applications. First, I'll be informing you about what domestic violence is and its psychological effects. Second, I'll be talking to you about how change has drastically changed within this pandemic. And third, I'll be talking to you about real-life experiences that people have faced all around the world. Domestic violence is a violent or aggressive behavior, typically within a spouse or a partner. This occurs all around the world. However, within this pandemic, the amount of victims has only increased. Domestic violence has been a problem that has occurred since the beginning of time. However, with this stay-at-home mandate, the number of victims is only increasing. According to Laura Newberry and Nicole Santa Cruz from LA Times, on March 24th, 2020, they describe how the number of victims that get abused by domestic violence is about 10 million per year. And the number of homicides has been increasing each year since 2010. Try to imagine this. The population of California is about 40 million people. 25% of that is 10 million. That is about how many people get abused by domestic violence each year, and those are only the cases that are reported. It is such a common issue that it could be happening all around us and we don't even know. It could be happening to our neighbors. It could be happening to someone we know. Many victims of domestic violence already face both mental and physical abuse. However, throughout this pandemic, it has only made them feel even more alone, which eventually can lead to depression or even in some cases self-harm, or even in some more unfortunate cases, it can lead to suicide. According to Diana Dean Morera and Mariana Pinto de Costa from NCBI on June 26, 2020, they state that domestic violence has been linked to psychological disorders like depression, anxiety, phobias, personality disorders, post-traumatic stress disorders, eating and sleeping disorders, as well as substance abuse and suicidality. The abuser uses these tactics to gain power over their victim. They want to make their victim feel like they have no one else to rely on, so this is how they make the victim feel lonely. This pandemic has only made these victims feel even worse, and these psychological disorders have only gotten worse. Now that I have talked to you about what domestic violence is and how many people are affected by it, as well as psychological effects of domestic violence, I will now be talking to you about how COVID-19 has affected procedures that allow victims to getting the help they need. This pandemic has resulted in social distancing and avoiding all human interaction at all costs. There are limitations to enforce health guidelines to ensure that none of us get the coronavirus. Both Newberry and Santa Cruz from LA Times on March 24th, 2020 exemplify how help has drastically changed since COVID-19 started. They explain how under normal circumstances, a victim would have met with the woman and the woman would have eventually let her or them receive the help they need. They describe a woman who had just been beaten up with her boyfriend. She had to receive help over the phone. But this is not the only instance. These women are at risk of so much. These women are that these women receive help, and this help is being regulated by COVID-19 guidelines. For example, these women could be exposed to coronavirus at these shelters, or these shelters may have an outbreak, which may not be used, so this stops a lot of help. Everyday life, like being at school or even at work or going to church, simple things that we do in our community, these were all examples how victims would get the help they need. We could talk to others about any problems we were having, or they could get to know us and notice any red flags or or how we seemed emotionally. Jackie Campbell from Johns Hopkins in July 6, 2020, states that schools remain closed, camps and activities are canceled. Many of these people are excluded from their extended family members and friends. This results in people not being able to report any red flags that they are noticing within these people. Teachers aren't able to report suspicious things that they see within students at school, nor family members or friends are able to know about what is happening in the daily lives of these people. So many of the ways that people received help are not being used cannot be used anymore as a result of COVID-19. These victims may also want to leave the situation. However, they might not want to expose themselves or their children to anything like coronavirus. They may also not be financially stable to provide for themselves. According to Macklin Stanley J.D. from Psychology Today on May 9, 2020, women may be reluctant to receiving help like shelters because they might not want to be expose themselves to high volumes of people. These women may not want to leave their abusers because they may have children right now and they don't have anyone to go to, as everyone is afraid of allowing other people into their homes. Now that I have talked to you about how this pandemic has changed procedures, which has affected people from getting the help they need, I will now talk to you about how domestic violence has increased all around the world. Many countries all around the world have faced an increase in domestic violence. After these stay-at-home mandates, many of these cases have led to death by their abuser. Eva Valera in Harvard Health Publishing on July 7, 2020, sheds light on Mexico, which has reported an 8% increase in feminicides, which is about 1,000 homicides in just the first 3 months of the year. Deaths among women as a result of quarantine has occurred all around the world, not only in the United States and Mexico. There has also been a correlation between gun ammunition and throughout this pandemic. It may be harder for victims to reach out for help because they also may be being surveillanced by their abuser as they are with them all the time. Social workers and caseworkers have had to got creative to interact with their clients. Ashley Fetters and Olga Kazan from The Atlantic on May 8, 2020 report that it is easier for them to discreetly communicate with clients through messages or even emails. They encourage clients to text from bus stops, their car, or even send an emoji just stating that they are okay, but they are being watched by their abuser. This creativity has allowed clients that have access to technology to receive some sort of help and talk to advocates who might help them with domestic violence. However, this is not the case for everyone, as many people all around the world do not have this privilege of technology. Or simply their abuser may be just watching everything that they are doing. Now that I have explained to you what domestic violence and how many people are affected by it, as well as the psychological effects, and how help has been diminished as a result of this pandemic all around the world, and how it has affected the whole world, I hope you understand the effects of COVID-19 on victims with domestic violence. Not everything is as good as it seems. Raquel and Alex had a good relationship. However, not every relationship is like this. Many people were not in this situation and are naive about all the consequences that could happen to this and that could arise from this pandemic.